Shalom and welcome to another edition of Parasha Talk. I'm Rabbi Elliot Malamed in Highland Park, New Jersey at the Highland Park Conservative Temple Congregation on chime. And joining me, my good friend Rabbi Jeremy Kalmanowski, Anshe Chesed, New York City. We're recording this without video. We are somehow encountering a technical difficulty. And our good friend Barry Chesler, Rabbi Barry Chesler, who was in Vienna. We were online with him and had the video going, but it just wasn't working. And so for the first time in a while, we are just audio. This reminds me of our camp days, although we did this in a studio where we could see each other. At any rate,
In those days we did it in that room in the back of the Sifriya. Those were fun days.
they were fun days. Just before we begin, I want to just say a word of condolences to our good friend, Rabbi Sharon Perlman, on the passing of her mother, Pearl Ginsburg. And she's an avid listener and viewer of the Parasha Talk. Her brother also, Arnold Steinberg, one of the few people who own the coveted Parasha Talk T-shirt. And we knew Pearl Ginsburg, 99 years old. She was an extraordinary woman. May her memory be a blessing. She would have loved the Parasha Talk for sure. And this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to probably do a shorter version because it's just the two of us. But I want to talk about Teruma, Parashat Teruma, and specifically on the two aspects of the Parsha. Vasuli Mikdash, which is probably the most quoted verse of the Parsha. They shall make for me a sanctuary. It's probably the most inscribed verse in the Torah on buildings for shuls. It's the quote that every donor plaque has. They shall make for me a sanctuary. V'asule mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham, and I will dwell among them. And then v'asu aron etzei shittim, they shall fashion a coffer. That's the technical term for this. The coffer of the covenant, the aron. In Hebrew, the ark, it's made out of acacia wood, etc. I want to just, we can get into the details and the dimensions of that. It'll take too long to quote all those verses. But I find it very interesting, just as a kind of observation, that of the things that are made in the Mishkan, only these two things are referred to in the plural. That is to say, they shall make me a sanctuary. They shall make an ark, and I think that that's significant. And I pitch that out to you as a kind of opener to think about, to meditate on, or to kind of examine the idea that the Mishkan is a collective creation, and so is the ark, and that's a big theme. I remember Amos Oz, for example, who had this theme, and I know it's in his book, Jews and Words, which I just had to download and kind of skimming through online. But he talks about, I've heard him in lectures, talk about the collective creativity of the Jewish people. We would not be a people without our collective creativity. So my favorite examples of collective creativity would be Hebrew language and the Bible. The Bible is, a collective creation. Where would you go with that theme, Rabbi
Yeah.
Komnowski?
By the way, I think that's tremendously, meaningful. There is not a single Jewish book that has a single author until I believe something like the 9th century, that every Jewish book, all the books in the Tanakh, all rabbinic literature are multiple author books or multivocal books. Rabbi Meir says this, Rabbi Yehuda says this, and Abaye says this, and Rava says this, and we excel at making a library, as opposed to, until we got to the Middle Ages, sort of the early Middle Ages, we get halachic books that seem to have a single author, like the Halachot Gedolot or the Halachot Psukot, and then you have a little. Once philosophy gets going side, you go on and Rambam. Then you get single author books. But I think that does indicate a fundamentally kind of cooperative crowdsourcing, so to speak, Jewish conversation, and that's true about the Hebrew language. Certainly true about the Siddur, the multivocality of the Siddur. So there's a great midrash that points out exactly as you just said that because of the tremendous importance of this is I think in uh, probably in Shmot Rabbah. Hold
Shmot
on, let me
Rabbah 32 or 33
yeah,
around there. I just
because of the great importance, all Israel has to have a stake in this.
yes.
So it's not that you know we are going to get, by the way, but not for 2 more weeks, the names of the chief artisans, Bezalel, Bezalel
Ben Uri Ben
uh,
Hur.
Ben Ori Ben Hur, and Achisamach, what's his name? Ohaliab Ben Achisamach, is that his
Samach.
name? Yeah, the second guy of Mate Dan. Um, and they are pretty important, but the the collectivity of Moses, I need you to supervise this, and Moses, I need you to supervise that. And next week's parsha is going to be entirely in second person plural, second person singular. You know, ve'atatitzav and ve'asita this, ve'asita that. You do this, you do that. These are collective projects, and there's a great another little piece of midrash. I don't really know where this appears,
So
but
I have the midrash you're referring to open in front of me. Now we're off a camera. I could run to my bookshelf. So I picked it up. It's in Shmot Rabbah chapter 34 Siman Bet.
yeah,
section 2, and it goes like this. It's talking about Vasu Aaron. They shall make the ark. And then the question is, Mipnei ma b'chol hakelim ha'eleh, why, with all the rest of the appurtenances, all the other things in the tabernacle, ketiva sita, you shall make, uva Aaron ketiva asu, they shall make. So every other one is you shall make, Moses, but here it's they shall make. So Rabbi Yehuda bar Rabbi Shalom, a lovely darshan, says, Amar Lam HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God said, Yavo hakol, everybody should come, via skuva Aaron, and they should be busy making the Aron kedei, so that sheyizku cholam laTorah, that everybody will have the merit, or everybody will be privileged to have Torah. And I think that that's amazing. It's too bad you can't see my face here, but that to me that I could turn my camera on for a second, but I don't want to lose the bride. This is, you know what, this is one of my favorite kind of themes. I would call it, like a master theme of and I make the claim it's a master theme of my rabbinate, but it's certainly a master theme in terms of teaching and being a rabbi, which is the idea that everybody has the right, everybody has the privilege, everybody, and
as a
you own it.
responsibility.
We own it. Everybody owns this. From time to time, and I'm sure this is true with you. You encounter people who think like where did you get that idea? Did you make it up? And I say, yeah, I made it up. I came up with this myself. Well, who gave you the right to do that? And I'm going like, I have the right to do this. I have the right to interpret the Torah and to bring my own perspectives and questions. And that's the way it works, buddy.
That is the way it works. Um, I find that like we have, by virtue of our education, um, we've absorbed that fundamentally midrashic quality to Torah. That is to say, that it doesn't mean one, there's not like one true meaning, and the rest of those things are like, eisegetical distractions, and you really have to get to the pshat, and the pshat is what it really means. And then you make stuff up, and people say, well, they made that up. Actually, that's the creativity that is wonderful in the Zohar, um, which is really, it's great celebration of religious creativity. Like you made it up is not a criticism, it's a celebration. And there's one medieval book, I'm forgetting right now the name of it, but it was this medieval Spanish Kabbalah in which the writer says about himself, and if whatever it is that he says, and he comments on it, and if I hadn't made that up myself, I would have said it was revealed to Moses at Sinai.
Perfect.
Like,
It's amazing.
yeah,
I
and
want to
so
go.
the I just want to say a thing about the Oholiab and Bezalel. Bezalel is Ben Uri ben Hur, the Mate Yehuda. He's from the tribe of Judah. It's the tribe that kings are going to come from. And Hur, according to the Midrash, is not in the Torah, but according to the Midrash, Hur is married to Miriam. So
Yeah,
that makes him Moses's grandnephew. And and Oholiab is from Mate Dan. Dan is the lowliest of tribes. And so there's this observation somewhere in the rabbinic literature, you could look it up, but I don't have it at my fingertips, that the artisans represent the breadth of society from water drawers to wood choppers, the most elite, the fanciest family that there is. You know, who does Moses hire for this major project? Lo and behold, his grandnephew. Didn't see that coming.
yeah.
Uh, and and also the lowliest. And I feel like that's just also a celebration of the breadth of community.
Do you know? I want to return to that theme because I think we ought to add one idea or one facet to the multivocality of classic Jewish texts. Okay, starting with the Torah itself. You know, you and I, Rabbi, Barry Chesler as well, and all, the people who inhabit this space in the Jewish world, have no problem talking about the multivocality of Torah and the many voices within the Torah itself. And we don't have any hesitation talking about the fact that the Torah was edited, the Torah was put together, and even the documentary hypothesis that the Torah itself consists of several strands that can be identified in terms of, certain kinds of patterns, certain kinds of themes, certain kinds of use of language, etc. They're usually clustered into four: the Elohist, the Yahwist, the priestly, and the Deuteronomist, and maybe also a fifth, the redactor, etc. And this text is I almost always identified. I'm always identified as a priestly, because it deals with so much of the priests. But there's the sermon about having many people, many hands in the Torah, is that this is the way that the people kept together. The people, all different parts of the people had their different traditions. And the fact that at some point in the history of the canonization of the Torah and later on the Bible, the fact that that an editor or editors were able to kind of put it all together, it says, one, we want to create one coherent narrative for the sake of the narrative, but also for the sake of the cohesiveness of the people. Because if you come with your own story and you're going to kind of engage on, whose story is better or whose version is better, I mean, that's going to quickly lead to dissolution. And I think that is really part of why the Torah, with all of its different, voices in it, is together. It's a statement about the unity of the Jewish people. I don't know if you have a reaction to that, Jeremy, or and I can extend that to literally all the texts of the Bible, all the books of the Bible, and then of course you see it on steroids in rabbinic literature.
In rabbinic literature, yeah, I that really resonates to me. And there was in the Second Temple times there were sectarian literature which didn't make it into our canon. Some of which, a few of the books, like the Maccabees books, which are in the Christian canon, but they're not in the Jewish canon. And uh, scholars have said, I don't really know who's made this argument, but I remember learning about it in school, that the process of Jewish canonization is presumably in the Yavna period of the early rabbinics, was itself a pretty flexible canonization. That is to say, we wanted to include as many people as we could. Like the Qumran people, they wanted to get away from all the other Jews, and the sages wanted to, as they didn't include the Qumran people, they didn't include the Book of Jubilees for whatever reason. Those things
Uh-huh.
were beyond the pale or whatever, but they felt that they wanted to bring as many voices in. Now, I'm just thinking of another metaphor, though, that is maybe like the limits of the gravity, that extension, which is, I'm thinking of the image of the Migdal Bavel, which is that at a certain point, something terrible happens, and the people can no longer talk to each other, and
Yeah.
they can no longer understand each other.
Okay.
Um, and and so I think that the interesting thing about pluralism and the interesting you know demand is that we have to work on this together, and but we have to have mutual comprehension. And as you look in the United States today, and as you look in the Jewish people today, and probably the Belgian and Salvadorian people, but I don't know anything about them. But the two nations that I do know something about, we're not doing very well at being able to understand each other. In fact, Red America and Blue America, or you know right wing Israel or left wing Israel, or the anti-Zionist forces among the Jewish people, or the Zionist forces, we're not doing a great job at being able to have like real mutual understanding. And so building the house for the Torah, which is what the Aron is, building the box that will contain the central part of our religion. That is something that we really want a wide number of people to participate in, and everybody will have a chelek. The tein chelkenu b'toratecha. We should have our lot in life be in your Torah.
Right. So that, the idea that it's a collective creation, that the ark itself, the box itself, that everybody has their own little piece of it. I'm thinking about how to present this. So I mean, and you'll appreciate this. Too bad you can't see my face here, because there is this custom that when a team wins the Stanley Cup.
Uh-huh.
So the minhag of the National Hockey League is that every player on the team gets a day with the cup, and the cup comes. Do you know about this? It's
No, no.
fascinating. So the Stanley Cup, which is during the year held in the Hall of Fame, the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto, and then it comes out and it has a special case, and there's a guard, and the guard, is the shamash of the Stanley Cup, and he goes to every single player on the team, and they get to spend one day with the cup, and what that means is Kol hockey player yesh lahem chelek b'Stanley Cup.
Wait, how
Every
many
hockey
guys are on a
player.
hockey team? How many guys are on a hockey team?
Yeah, about 20 guys. Okay. But you get the coaches, whatever. So, it takes about a month. Maybe, they do it during the summer. And there are lots of stories about these guys, the hockey, that they have a barbecue, and the Stanley Cup is in the lawn, and the barbecue, or one guy who brought it to his hometown, and who knows, in Nova Scotia, and in Hicksville, Nova Scotia, and he brings it out to the whole town. It's like, and what I understand from this, I'm saying it with tongue in cheek, but also with a kind of serious anthropological eye, which is the idea that everybody has a portion of it is actually a very, very powerful idea. That everybody has a portion. We should not gloss over the fact that the Aron, which is the most sacred of the objects, which is, theoretically never in view, never in sight, although it comes out in battle, that if you want, in your imagination, everybody brings it home, right? Everybody's going to have a moment with the Aron, right? And because we all are linked to it as people who have contributed to it, or people who have actually made it, or people who have actually, been part of it. I don't know. Have you ever dedicated a Torah in your shul as part of the? Have you done
No,
a
never
Torah
mind.
dedication?
We've not done that. Yeah.
Yeah, we did a Torah dedication several years ago, and so it's something that it's very, very special. We needed a new Torah, so we had a lead donor, and then we got the scribe to come in. And then, as part of the celebration, people who make the donations, come and hold the quill, and they write their letter in the Torah, and they
Yeah.
take a picture.
I've heard of that, but I've never participated.
I'll tell you something. It sounds, on the one hand, it sounds very kitschy, okay, and very kind of like, oh yeah, okay. It's like you can be very cynical about that. On the other hand, there's something quite amazing about it, which is that if you have your letter in the Torah, you know that you are somehow connected. I say this all the time about B'nai Mitzvah. When you learn a parsha, or you learn a portion of a parsha. Today's Rosh Chodesh. You can learn, an aliyah or a piece of an aliyah. That's yours. you own it. You own it, man. You own it, and it stays with you for the rest of your life, and and it means that you have a chelik in this. You have a portion of this, and just like the Stanley Cup comes around, to every player on the team, the Aron as an image comes around and ought to be something that's special for us. Okay.
I love it.
You
I
love it.
love
I want to take it another
it.
place, which is, you know, there's this metaphorical level here, which is, the most sacred thing a person has in their life, and whether it's a story or an idea or a relationship. We all have our personal aron. We all have something that we have inside of us, and and I guess the therapist in me would say, you gotta unlock that to really understand a person. If you understand what's in someone, like we were saying in another take on this, what's in your wallet. You know why that's such a brilliant campaign? Because you think you're talking about your credit card, or money, but what's in your wallet is a metaphor for what do you hold most precious to you. And
Hmm.
if you know what's in your wallet, if you know what's in someone's ark, then that's where they're most vulnerable. That's where you connect on a relationship, and you can almost understand a person if you know what the most important aspects of their life are. And I think for us, the Aron is does has that role. I don't know if you have any metaphorical associations with it, or connected in symbolic forms, or what jumps out to you, while we're speaking about the ark, the coffer, the Aron.
The the phrase that it has to be gold inside and out, and what the
Yeah,
rabbi describes is that there's a wooden box that has an exterior. There's like basically three boxes in the Aron. There's a wooden box that is the core, and an inner gold box and an outer gold box. So it's mibaytu michutz titzapenu. You have to glaze it, not glaze it. That's to make glass. You have to gild it uh, from without and within, and that's often taken homiletically to be kind of a description of human integrity, right? Like
yeah.
your inside has to match your outside, and I find that meaningful. But I really like this. I like this. The collective possession of the Torah is instantiated in that. Um, do I have? I don't really have. I mean, I have. I certainly don't have physical possessions that feel that way to me. But
You
like,
certainly have.
we have so many. Um, you and I have buried a lot of people,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and to think about the like each person, what are they taking with them in that box? Uh,
Yeah.
that would be that's I
That's the
I I,
Aron.
I I feel I feel a hesped coming on here.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. You know what? I want to go another place with this, and then we're going to end with this, which is, it says, Vasuli, you shall make for me. And I was trying to think of a different texts that have you shall make for me, or you shall make. And so, the first thing that came to my mind was in the tzitzit, right?
Mhm.
"Vaydaber na Moshe lemor, daber al bnei Yisrael, amar lahem, vasu lahem tzitzit." They shall make for themselves. They shall make for themselves tzitzit. And so, vasuli, you make it for me. Vasu lahem, they shall make it for them. And
Vayikuli truma.
yeah,
You
bichuli, take it for me. Take me the gift, the offering, right? So I'm wondering, when we read this, how much of this is for God, how much of this is for us? You know, we have this idea, this picture here that the priests here are presenting to us, because we're free enough. Torah Shacherut, as Dov Elbaum, this guy in Israel, has this podcast called Torah Shacherut. So we're free here to say, this is code P here, the priestly code,
Mhm.
and they're saying, It's God wants this, but there's something that happens to us when we make it for God. It does change who we are. I mean, you did a renovation in your shul not too long ago, right?
Correct, correct.
How did that affect the shul?
Well, we part of the pitch that we made, because we wanted to say, listen, we had a great community in a very dingy building, so we use this toho kivaro, that your
Sure.
inside should match your outside, and the mibaitu michutz titzapeno, that you should gild it both inside and outside. And we said that in that campaign we wanted to make our outsides match our insides.
Okay.
We need to gussy up the, as one of the members said, this is probably the least pleasant space that most people are in every day.
Really.
And so, yeah, we tried to gussy that up a little bit.
So in a sense, of course, it was all directed towards the community. So you had to bring God in there too, And we had the same thing after our fire back in 2000. Oh my God, 2006. We had a fire, and best thing that ever happened to us, right? They still haven't found my lighter fluid, you know.
As in the Sopranos, right? They call that
Exactly.
Jewish
No, but
lightning.
what that I understood even back then, this idea of collective creativity, and that everybody has a place in it, and that of course people make donations, and some of course make larger donations because they're able to, and some are not able to. But the idea that there people we can have full participation, or at least as much participation as possible, and I think people took it seriously. We had a very, very high percentage of people who made contributions that were quite significant, and those went on for several years. And there's really nothing about it. I mean, do you remember the film Witness, right? The barn
Yeah.
raising scene in Witness.
Oh
It's
yeah.
so moving to watch this because the whole town comes. Everybody, this family needs a house, and boom, everybody comes out. They've got their saws, their hammers, their whatever, and you put it together, and it's done. And that's amazing. And so, we'll get to that when the Mishkan is completed. I always like to, refer to this kind of emotion, the completion emotion when it's done. But we are done here as we come to the conclusion in the two-man show, Missing Man Formation, Missing Picture Formation. I don't want to flash people with an attempt to do the video. We'll leave it like that. We're missing our buddy, Rabbi Barry Chesler, for Barry Chesler. We say goodbye. Rabbi Kalmanovsky, wishing
Rabbi
you good
Malman,
Shabbos.
good
And we'll
Shabbos.
and we'll
See you
see
next week.
everybody hopefully on video next week on the next edition of Parasha Talk. Have a good one. Shabbat Shalom. Bye
Shabbat
bye.
Shalom.